All right. Oh, it works. Great. I've been told I have to stand here. Everyone can see? Cool. Compliments to the speakers that have been before me. I think the level of English for the non-natives is better than mine. I haven't lived in England for more than 25 years. But I'm going to tell you a little bit today about my journey. I've been fortunate enough to work with some of very recognizable brands in the world. I've been able to see firsthand a lot of the good in this fashion industry. I've also been able to see a lot of the not so nice things in this industry. I think I've lived well, but more importantly, as a student of the world, I've learned well. So this was me 4 years ago. I don't know if you've heard this proverb or this metaphor of the career crossroads, they call it. So more than 2 decades in this industry. My previous job was as the CEO for a social enterprise footwear company from America. Fast growth, ridiculously fast growth. But at the same time, my boy was born. And in his first 3 years, I didn't see a lot of him because I was never at home. So in 2015, I decided to put the pause button, or press the pause button, take a little bit of time out, self-reflection, and kind of think, is this really what I want to do? So me and my wife, we went on a sabbatical, went to India, and with my last job, I'd also been present and experienced a lot of social enterprises, a lot of NGOs, a lot of situations in the world that were very humbling. But by going to India and supporting a very personal charity project in the slums of New Delhi that take kids out of poverty and provide them with educational hope, I saw firsthand how a little can go a very long way. So we came back from India, and there were job offers on the table to go back into this C-suite lifestyle, which I would have been taking one hat off and putting a different hat on. And we kind of sat there and went, what are we doing? What are we doing with our life? Our life's got to have a little bit more of a greater meaning and a greater purpose to it. I think this quote's great, and it kind of sums me up as well over my 20 plus years in the industry. So we made a decision to bet on ourselves. So at the beginning of 2016, paint a picture, we're sitting at the kitchen table. We said no to the contracts that are there from other fashion companies. We said, you know what, we're going to do it ourselves. It's been a big dream all of our life to create something ourselves where we can put our own personal values into the core DNA of what we're going to stand for. So from day one, we knew exactly what we wanted to make. Beautiful, handcrafted objects of beauty made in the one country in Europe that has got the best reputation for craftsmanship, Italy. So we started to do some research because we knew we were going to make bags, we were going to make shoes, we were going to make all these beautiful things that when you touch them, it feels like Christmas every day. So we started to do some research, and before you know it, we started to run up against some frustrations. I've been in this industry, and I know a lot of what these frustrations are, but we were determined that we were going to produce in Italy, and we're going to find the best craftspeople we could that had a CV of working for luxury labels and convince them to work with us. Problem is, luxury brands are very secretive about who these artisans are, so they talk about craftsmanship all the time, but they never tell you who they are. So like, how are we going to find them? So we went into our network and we started calling friends and asking, this is what our story is, this is what we're looking to do. And I kind of came up with some hypotheses here, because by 2025, McKinsey estimate luxury consumer goods industry to be around $270 billion. If it's that big, surely you can find out who the makers are. No, it's a finely kept secret. So the vocabulary of craftsmanship, which comes as rhetoric in every single brand's communications, I started to kind of think, well, if you're talking about it all the time, but you're not actually putting the highlight and the spotlight onto the real people, what does that mean for the sustainability of craftsmanship in general? So, when we met with our first artisan, a guy called Marco Cini, he runs one of the oldest cashmere weaving facilities just outside Florence. We sat down with him and we were super excited because this is the first person that had reacted to one of our emails. So we sat down and we said, Marco, before we talk to you about what we want to do, we want to know about you. How long has this been in your family? Who started it? And what is the biggest challenge that you're facing? He said, hey, Martin. You know the Italians, they're very expressive. So I was like, okay, what's the biggest challenge? And he said, you know what? Look around. Look at my team. Alessandra, could you come here, please? Martin, it's Alessandra. Ciao. How long have you been here? Well, I'm the youngest apprentice at L'Anificio Arca, and I've been here 28 years. Oh, okay. Bruna, please. Martin, meet Bruna. Hi, Bruna. Very nice to meet you. How long have you been here? I've been here more than 55 years. I said, okay. It's very clear. I get what you're saying. So when we kind of looked at what the challenge was, and this happened with every single artisan throughout Italy we went and met with, they all had the same challenge. How can they identify the next generation? When you kind of do a cause and effect model, the cause is that the luxury brands get all of these artisans to sign confidentiality agreements. So they're not allowed to talk about who they make for. Problem, on the other hand, is that the young generation, they only know the labels because they're the ones who are spending the marketing money, right? And they're all on Instagram, they've all got the models. So the effect of that is that there is a serious long-term threat to the lifeblood of luxury. And the lifeblood of luxury is not the creative directors or the designers, it's the makers, the people with poetry in their hands. So, at the same time, there starts to come a lot of noise in a lot of global media networks about how luxury is not necessarily delivering on its promise to tell you 100% the truth. And if you kind of look at the big four luxury groups today, they're sitting on $22 billion of cash. $22 billion. Wow. You know how much good we could do in the world with that? An immense amount. So we kind of started to think about how could we help the artisans with their greatest challenge to support us to be able to keep producing what we produce so that becomes a circular business model. We ultimately arrived at the point that luxury needs reframing. There needs to be a reframing and an education of new values which are associated to it. So if you look over here, I think it's on the left. That's a traditional organizational mindset. And you can probably relate to that. But the mindset on the right is this new mindset of a social business, social enterprise. We've had a big discussion today. I think social enterprise needs maybe a new vocabulary as well. I like to call it business for good. Because ultimately, if you're running a for-profit business that is helping to solve a societal issue, it's never going to reach its impact goals if it's not growing and it is not profitable. So we started to kind of think, through all these conversations and traveling between all these different artisans in Italy, about purpose. Because passion is the secret of purpose. So you can get up every day and have a lot of passion, but it's got to be working towards a greater belief, something greater than that you actually stand for. So you guys know what this is, I imagine. Do you guys know what the purpose of Tesla is? Anyone? To what? Not quite. It is to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. That's a pretty cool purpose for business that sells cars. There's nothing in there about selling cars or being the best automotive company in the world. It's something bigger than what these guys stand for. So we traveled around Italy, and at one point in late 2016, we're driving between Tuscany and Marche. We're driving, and there's a lot of passion built up in me, and I turned around to my wife, and I was like, this is wrong. This is wrong. All of these artisans, they're the best in class. They produce for the cream of the cream. And the cream of the cream are not doing something to help, but we've got to do something to help them. You know what? We're going to preserve a crafted society. She went, oh, say that again? I said, what? Which part? Because I got on my soapbox. And, the last bit. I said, we're going to preserve a crafted society, a time when people can still appreciate things made by the hand. So, great. So I'm driving, and she's on the phone to the International Trademark Office. She's like, yeah, I want to register this trademark. I think we found our brand name. So we called it Crafted Society. It makes a lot of sense, right? Because crafted, craftsmanship, the ability to make skilled things by hand. And the society, which is really important to us, was to create an organization and a feeling of community where people that feel the same way could be a part of. So we had arrived at our why. We knew the what. We'd slowly started to find the how, but we'd now reached the why. So our why, as a luxury label today, is to use the power of transparent craftsmanship to inspire, empower, and educate the next generation. And here, I hope I've got a little video for you.
Hi, I'm Martin, and together with my wife Lisa, we are the founders of Crafted Society. When we decided to follow our own dream, we knew exactly what we wanted to create. Beautiful, limited edition, handcrafted products made in Italy. We just didn't know by who. You see, traditional luxury brands talk a lot about craftsmanship, but without the acknowledgement of who these talented makers are. The artisans were extremely difficult to find, but when we did track them down, we asked all of them about their biggest threat to their craft. They were all struggling to identify the next generation. This made logical sense when we understood that our artisans all signed confidentiality agreements with the luxury labels, which by default banishes them to an anonymous existence. At this moment, and quite by accident, we had stumbled upon our reason for existing. We were going to do everything we could to preserve a crafted society while celebrating the makers. We turned our initial roadblock into our brand's driving force. Our purpose was crystal clear: to use transparent craftsmanship to inspire, empower, and educate the next generation through our mission of using luxury for good. To honor our artisans, we co-brand all of our products with the names of the makers and provide full bios on our website. After 6 successful pop-up stores, we decided to open a permanent fitting room where you can experience the brand up close and learn more about how we are democratizing luxury by cutting out the middleman and offering you a luxury product without the luxury price tag. As a modern brand for socially conscious consumers, we believe in using business as a force for good, which is why we pledge 1% of our global sales towards organizations focused on educating the next generation. Stop the press. Transparency is a hot topic, and our approach towards transparency in luxury is gaining traction with media and celebrities alike. All of our efforts to rebalance the luxury scales means nothing without the support of you. Thank you for supporting our common goal to preserve our crafted society.
So a lot of people here will have heard about millennials. There's probably some millennials in here today. But actually quite an interesting percentage is that by 2025, 45% of the global economic spending power for luxury goods is going to be owned and controlled by millennials. Well, these people are more open-minded, and they've got a different value set than our previous ancestors. They're thinking about honesty, transparency, fair pricing. It's a critical thing. sustainability of people and planet, as well as looking and searching out for experiences as opposed to possessions. They're driven by the whole notion of creation of a circular economy, but they're seeking and demanding authenticity as well. So if you want to be a player in this market, because look, let's be honest, what we're doing, nobody needs, right? But it's a massive industry, so obviously there's a demand for it. Fashion is fickle, ultimately, but if you can be a good fashion player, a good partner, hopefully do something right, educate some people in the meantime, then you can preserve ultimately what it is we're seeking to do, which is our forefathers and our ancestors' knowledge and skill. So luxury for good, this is our mission. We have a purpose. Our mission is using luxury for good. But this is built on 4 brand pillars of ethics, sustainability, social responsibility, and fair pricing. So our ethics are simple. We believe other people should also receive credit where credit's due for what they do, which is why we expose them and we put their name on our product and we promote them in our bios, etc., and we invite them to interviews with global media partners. Sustainability, strength today. It's your social responsibility to be sustainable. As a modern business that starts today, I think it's only notable and only wise that you also give something back from it, because that's the whole notion of purpose over profit. But it's also got to be accessible in terms of its pricing. So luxury by default was very elitist. It was extremely exclusive, and exclusivity came with a very high price point, which meant that only a few people really had access to it. We want to kind of blow that up, think differently. So in order to have a new luxury business model, there needs to be a new set of values, a new set of vocabulary, what people are talking about, and whether that's from a humanitarian perspective, whether it's from a planetary perspective, we need to break with the old and move to the new. And a mate of mine, a guy that lives out in Los Angeles, he's the author of this book. It's called Good is the New Cool. I think it is. I think doing good is the new cool. But you can't lead with the good. You've got to lead with the cool and bake in the good. You get that? Okay. So, again, ethics, confidentiality. Don't believe in that, right? Because ultimately we stand for the people. We design our brand. It's our design. These guys make it. Yeah? But we don't believe in keeping that a secret, because by opening and providing visibility to these makers, they have an opportunity to get new business in for more people, which ultimately will help preserve their own craft. All of our grandmasters, they're based in Italy today. We've obviously got a goal to move to different international markets, because there are amazing artisans in every nook and cranny on the planet. And that's where we don't see any sort of limitations in where we can take this business as we grow. From a geographical aspect, 70% of all of our business products come from the Marche region, which, if nobody knows, is one of the most beautiful regions in Italy. And when we started looking at this, we started looking at one thing, and it's made in Italy. So in our research, we visited a lot of factories, lots and lots and lots. Big brands, very well-known brands, and they've all got made in Italy. But as you saw before, investigative journalists are now starting to say and look into, is it really true? You say on the label it's made in Italy, is it? And we started with our own eyes to also see that sometimes this can be misleading. So when you look at the Fashion Revolution Sustainability Index, they judge companies, they rank companies based on primary, secondary, and tertiary suppliers. Primary are your finished goods, secondary are all your components, and tertiary are the raw materials. So for us, we mention every single supplier in the supply chain. Every single supplier comes from Italy, where it's the cardboard boxes the shoes go in, the buttons that go on the jeans, the metalwork that goes on the bags, the tanneries where we source our certified leather from, the spinning yarns where we get our certified cashmere from. It's all there. We're not doing it because we think that gives us a competitive advantage. We're doing it because we want to be true to our pledge of providing a highlight to every single person in the value chain. So as I said, sustainability of people, we back that up. We put their names on our product. Who makes your whatever? Well, it's nice to know, right? That it's not a marketing claim, but there's someone actually there behind it with a face. And then you can go onto the website and you can see all of their bios and all their contact details are there. So if you speak Italian and you want to have a chat with someone in Marche that makes shoes, give them a call. Same with our planetary responsibilities. And our social responsibility is, it was never the why of why we were starting Crafted Society. We do it because we just believe that every good, conscious business should give something back. And education for us was the key component within the UN SDGs of providing access to quality education can help eradicate a huge amount of the issues that the world is currently dealing with. So we pledge 1% of our turnover, not profit, because we don't necessarily believe profit is transparent. Because a year when a company has a bad year, maybe there's no profit, so then they're not giving. So we give continuously from our global turnover. And we work with multiple partners in New Delhi. We've just teamed up with a Dutch organization called Charlie Braveheart, and we're doing quite a few different projects all over the world, with the end goal being that when we are at a certain scale, instead of donating to third-party NGOs, we can actually donate back to the Luxury Good Foundation ourselves. And we've already got a pilot program in place where we're pairing people in need, specifically refugees, with our shoemakers, and giving refugees in Italy an opportunity to learn a craft, but more importantly, have a career, have a job. And we're providing the artisan with a solution that we're being able to identify the next generation of craftspeople. Fair pricing, don't forget this. Anyone that wants to start a business, you've got to know what market is you're going into. And you've got to know where can you sit in the balance with all the other competitors in your field. Luxury, traditional fashion, may mark up anywhere between 4 to 6 times cost. And that'll include the wholesale margins for retailers. Luxury is a different ballgame. They're going to mark up anywhere between 8 to 12 times. Why? I don't know. Maybe because that store they have on Bond Street or Madison Avenue is really expensive. The markups are out of the norm. We cut out all that. We sell direct to you. It's almost factory direct, but it's designed, and that's the difference. We believe we can run a fair business, give back, and it be profitable by marking up between 3 and 3.5 times cost. So, transparency sits at everything we do in the cornerstone. We're believing in creating a new luxury label that is inclusive rather than exclusive. You make it inclusive because you make it affordable to more people. Transparent instead of confidential. Quality over quantity. Limited edition. That's why we never go on discount. Because everything we do is made in limited amounts. And when it's done, we move on to the next thing. So we never have to discount our product because there's no overproduction. And we're driven by purpose over profit. But don't get me wrong. We are a for-profit company. Our impact is driven not by how many numbers go on the top line, how many artisans we're working with on the bottom line. So when we started, we had one artisan. Today we work with more than 100 different artisans that touch our product in different product categories. And our goal for growth is driven by, we want to reach 1,000 artisans across 5 or 6 different countries. Then we can start to really scale what we're doing. Transparency is the new power. and maybe we're early into this space, could well be, but we definitely believe there is a growing movement towards a consumer rhetoric that is demanding, where's the food come from? What's the nutritional value? Where are my clothes made? Who made them? With what did they make them? Can you prove that? And if you can do all of that, you can then slowly start to move a mindset. Kind of helps when these guys support what we're doing. This was a year ago, and I got a phone call out of the blue. A friend of mine was sitting at Paris Fashion Week, sitting next to the fashion editor of New York Times. She was talking about this big story they'd just written about artisans living in the shadows in Italy. He's like, oh, you've got to speak to my mate Mart in Amsterdam. So the phone went before Christmas. He's like, hello, is that Martin? I said, yeah. Yes, I am calling from the New York Times. I was like, oh God, is this it? Are they gonna put one of our products in the shopping page? Well, they came and interviewed us, and they gave us a half a page ad, and the knock-on effect of that has been insane. But these guys are also an opinion leader in the world of doing things differently, disruption. Back of that, we've had multiple other people talk about us. So it's been a great year, 2019. But the last piece of advice I want to leave you with, you can have a fantastic story, and that's ultimately what a social business is, right? It's a great story, but you've also got to you've got to know how to deliver it. Got to be authentic in it. But ultimately, all well-intended social intentions mean nothing if the product or the service that you're selling is not right for the market, well-priced, designed correctly, beautiful, and desirable. Then when you fuse those two together, that's when the magic happens. Thanks very much. In closing, be passionate about what you do. Never give up. You're going to have more people tell you no than yes, especially when you're knocking down a door that's never been entered before. Thanks very much, and hope you liked it.
Thank you very much, Martin. Would you stay with me for a little bit? It's so great, man. You're actually sharing like your formula, your equation for impact, and very clearly you are driven not only for your passion for luxury goods, something you've been working with, but your idea that something has to be done. And I have a million questions for you. I think we'll have a beer later, perhaps.
Sure.
Then I'll be able.
These guys want to go and have a break.
They will. But we've still got 5 minutes, and there's a couple of questions I would love to ask you, just because I have the opportunity. And one of the main ones is you were talking about transparency and the importance of transparency, and how that correlates with good, and people want good, and how good becomes a value driver within the organization or within what you're doing. And you clearly come from an industry which is full of bullshit. And so now, and I
was told not to use that language in my presentation.
I'm the host. I'm allowed. And so I'm really curious about you coming from that industry, and where you are definitely going to get a lot of pushback from these people, because a lot of what they sell is pure, right? This stuff. I would like to give you the opportunity now to share with us some of the foulest, worst bullshit that this industry is built on.
So I'll take you back 8 years, and I was having a meeting with the mayor of Amsterdam, and I've just started this new job. I'm super passionate, and we're doing good, and we're doing something positive in this industry that does a lot of negativity, a lot of bad, right? And I'm in there talking to the mayor, and they're like, so tell us about, what's the concept? And I'm like, oh, we're completely transparent. And then I had a kick under the table. I was like, oh. And then I kept going, I got another kick. So I walked out of this meeting, and these two big senior C-suite, very expensive, well-paid presidents went, don't ever say that. I was like, what? Well, we're not transparent. And I was like, but we're doing good. Yeah, don't make that mistake, that transparency and doing good can be one and the same. And that stuck with me, which is why when we decided to start Crafted Society, I basically took all of the hypotheses of how to build a traditional business threw them out the window and said, you know what, we're going to do everything completely the opposite and see if it works.
Have you had institutional pushback, say from the industry itself, people who are like,
oh, yeah.
don't mess with their money, don't...
You know, like, well, first of all, we never name any of the competitors, right? Because we're also respective of all of our artisans that produce for many of these brands. So the last thing we want to do is jeopardize their lifeblood, because we're the smallest brand they work with. But what we do is try and reframe a mindset. So we ask questions whereby ultimately, maybe it was our idea, but in 10 years from now, there'll be such a society around us that are demanding the same value set, that movement is going to be the one that actually changes the game.
Cool, brother. Listen, one question which I also found, which I'd like to ask you quickly, because you made the transition from employee to founder, high-level employee, you learned the craft, you learned the inside of the industry before you decided to play the industry with your own money.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a bit about what compelled you? When did you feel that was the right decision to make? Did you ever, like when you were younger, say, I feel I want to do this on my own, but I'm going to wait a little bit? Because clearly you operated a very good dynamic there. So
when I was at university, I played football 20 kilos ago, probably 30 kilos ago now. But I was a footballer. So I went to America on a soccer scholarship. And in order to put some extra money in my pockets, I started my own soccer schools. I got my coaching badge from the English Football Federation, and I started coaching. So entrepreneurship was always in me. But when I wasn't good enough to make a footballer, my first decision in my head was, well, I'm going to go and work for the #1 football brand in the world, running sports marketing. Well, that was my first job. So I went to Adidas, and within a few months I got that. After looking back on my career, I'd stay in a role for about 3 years, and I've been with my wife almost 20 years now, which is a good thing, that I haven't bailed on her after 3 years. But I would always stay in a company between 3 and 4 years, because ultimately you go through the dating process, which is where they recruit you, and then you get on board, and it's all beautiful, and you've got love in your eyes, and then you get into it, and ultimately after about 3 years, promises don't always stack up. So at the end of my last role, I was like, okay, I think I'm ready now. I've got a bag full of experience, I've got a bag full of contacts, and I've also got a bag full of things that I want to do differently based on my own value set. And it helped that I had a little bit of pocket money saved up. So we decided we'd start it and give it a try.
Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for Martin.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's lovely.